cannot, right? Can you? Hare Krishna. So is the volume okay?
Yeah, I think few devotees say it is okay.
Few of them know, but how about Sandeep Prabhu was saying it was not okay. It's better now? Okay, perfect. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktitirtha Swaminatha Namine Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shritatmane Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhaktitirtha Namine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminatha Namine Namaste Saraswat Devam Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesha Shunyavad Pashyate Desatarine Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Nityananda Vadutendur Vasudha Prana Vallabha Janava Jivita Patihi Krishna Prema Prada Prabhu Padmavati Sutta Sriman Sachinandana Purvajaha Bhavonmatta Jagatrata Rakta Gaura Kalevaraha Namo Namo Aniruddhaya Hishikesha Indriyatmane Namah Paramahamsaya Purnaya Nivartatmane Swarga Pavarga Dwaraya Nityam Suchi Sade Namaha Namah Hiranya Viryaya Chaturhotraya Tantave. So the previous week we were discussing 2.55 and we extended it to 2.56 of the Bhagavad Gita. Specifically, we were talking about the symptoms of a transcendentally situated personality. So the first aspect of our discussion revolved around the present state. One needs to be able to empathize, one needs to be able to understand the present state and to be able to recognize the problems associated with the present state for them to be able to desire a remedy. Why would we seek a better situation if we do not realize that the current situation is not so wonderful? If the current situation itself is to be assumed that it is wonderful, it suits us, then why would we even seek any betterment? So the preliminary process, the first requirement is to understand the status quo. Let me do some analysis on who I am. Let me do some analysis on the state of life. Let me do some analysis on the challenges that I face, and then it would give me some impetus, some motivation from within for me to pursue a solution. If we do not even see a problem, then where is the question of a solution? So the problem was examined in great detail in 2.54. Krishna provided the solution in 2.55. Arjuna asked him, saying, what is the state of one? So he asked three questions. He could have asked one question. He asked three questions. He said, what is the state of one? What is the consciousness of one who is transcendentally situated? First question. So he asked about consciousness. Second question, he asked about what does he speak? Third question, he talked about action. How does he walk? So he literally broke apart 3 different levels of existence in one question or one particular verse. He said, Krishna, what are these different symptoms of a person who is transcendently situated? Several purposes. Several purposes. Number 1, he wanted us to recognize what is exactly the meaning of transcendently situated. What is the meaning of samadhi? He also wanted to reiterate the fact that for a person who does not know what is samadhi, these 3 questions will have to be asked. What is consciousness? What is this part of speaking? And what is the part of acting? Right? That's the reason why our acharyas talk about 3 different levels of surrender. 3 different levels of surrender are, you surrender the body first. You surrender your words next. You surrender your mind last. So you start with the most gross, move to somewhat less gross, and then you finally move to the most subtle. What is gross? This physical body. Surrender has to happen at the physical level. Surrender has to happen at the level of speaking. And how does speech occur? What is the process of speech? First there is a thought. First there is thinking. And once there is concentrated thinking on any particular aspect, thinking would lead to what is the next step? Words. First there is a thought, and then there are words. Words would become actions. Actions would become habits. Habits would become character. And character would reinforce culture. Right? So these are different steps for us to be able to have a certain culture. Krishna consciousness is a culture. Every aspect of our life is touched upon by Krishna consciousness. It is just not the 2 hours in the morning. It is just not the few hours or few times when we meet with devotees once a week. We are in a situation of culture where every aspect of our existence is being touched by Krishna consciousness. So for that culture to occur, which is the state of samadhi, where we exist in Krishna consciousness, where whatever we do is Krishna conscious, for that to occur, the preliminary steps of thinking, speaking, action, all of these have to be regulated. All of these have to be aligned with Krishna consciousness. So we lead an existence currently before we become whole. Why am I saying whole? I'm saying before we become whole and holistic, where our body, which is the senses, the mind, intelligence, and the soul all act in unison. That is the reason why I'm using the word, saying that before we become one piece. Right now we are fragmented. The body does not obey the mind or has its own independent existence. The mind, unable to obey the body, deflects between, okay, this is good because the body is demanding it. Immediately when the intelligence pulls it up, it says, oh, it's bad. So the mind is in between. And then you have the intelligence, which can either be on the side of the body or on the side of the soul. The intelligence can basically play both roles. It can either assist or it can become a problem when it is not properly regulated. And then you have the soul itself. So this is our existence. Every one of these components have their own plan. It's a fragmented existence. It is not wholesome existence. That's the reason why humankind is frustrated. That's the reason why people are seeking help. Because you need help when you do not feel complete. So you are seeking different aspects of this world to feel complete. I am a part of Krishna, and I have not recognized that my only goal is to connect to Him. So instead of connecting to Him, I'm feeling incomplete because I'm fragmented. Different parts of my body, different parts of my existence are acting independently. And I'm thinking that instead of connecting to Him, I will connect with His different energies. Krishna has different energies in this world. There is material energy, right? So we are thinking, why don't we react and why don't we connect with the separated energies of the Lord? And why cannot that make us feel complete? It's impossible. We can only feel complete when we get in connection with Him. So that's the main issue. And we also spoke that in the wholesome state, when everything is integrated, when one is in samadhi, when a situation of purity occurs. And what is purity? We use the word pure quite casually. Right? Oh, he's a pure devotee, he's a pure devotee, he's this, we use many different words for pure. We don't even know what is pure, but what is purity? What is the state of purity, which is the objective, which is being spoken of by the Shastras? What is purity? Lack of interest in, Suhas Prabhu is saying, lack of interest in pleasing or giving pleasure to our senses. Very good. So now, when there is absolutely no interest in pursuing independent objectives by the different aspects of our existence, that's a pure existence. There is no absolute no deviation. The soul has an agenda, and the agenda of the soul is to please Krishna. We have not uncovered the agenda of the soul fully. We have misinterpreted it. The agenda of the soul is to please Krishna. When the agenda of the soul is taken up by the mind, when the agenda of the soul is taken up by the intelligence, when the agenda of the soul is taken up by the body, one is considered to be in a pure existence. The agenda of the soul is to please Krishna's senses. No other agenda. That is pure existence. That is samadhi. Samadhi essentially does not mean to be buried in a tomb. In Krishna consciousness, in the process of bhakti yoga, we attain samadhi in action. That's the reason why Arjuna is asking that question. Krishna, if one is in samadhi, how would he speak? How would he walk? He's not saying that one is in samadhi or, this is not making a difference. He's making it very clear that samadhi does not necessarily mean inaction, which is common interpretation. Oh, he is in samadhi because the guy has closed his eyes, he's sitting in a corner, he's sitting in a cave, he is in a samadhi. But someone who is Krishna conscious, who is walking on the road and he's serving Krishna, he is not in samadhi. Wrong. When the entire existence is aligned with the desire of the soul only, and the desire of the soul is to render pure devotional service to Krishna, that is called samadhi. That's the pure transcendental state. In such a state, the senses do not pose a challenge. We spoke about this the previous week. The senses do not pose a challenge. There are no barriers. Can you see beyond this wall? Okay, we cannot. So now, in the material world, there is a barrier. There is a barrier where matter obstructs our eye and matter impedes our existence, where we cannot go beyond certain dimensions. Right? But in the spiritual realm, that is not the case. In the spiritual realm, matter can never impede spirit. So in a pure state, when the body, the mind and the intelligence stop resisting and become 100% subservient to the domination and the desires of the soul, there is absolutely no challenge for the soul in interacting with Krishna. We are pure. Krishna is pure. Why would there be a problem? Now this barrier of matter which lies between Krishna and us gets broken down. That is sadhana. When we perform sadhana and we go through the process of giving up the anarthas, the barrier between us and Krishna gets broken down. The so-called material barrier, the conditioning, the various identities that we have assumed other than being a servant of Krishna, which we think are more important than being a servant of Krishna. The idea of being in the center, Krishna being in the periphery. Right? All of these are misconceptions that have to go away. And these misconceptions go away once we realize and we start taking up the process of sadhana bhakti under the guidance of a spiritual master in disciplic succession. So all these barriers go away. And when there are no barriers, why wouldn't I be able to connect to Krishna? I am a pure soul. I should be able to see Him. I should be able to hear Him. I should be able to feel His touch. That's the ultimate result of Krishna consciousness. One experiences presence in Golok Vrindavan while being on this planet. Do we realize? Do we realize the import of what's been given? Because sometimes we do not even know what's been given to us by Lord Chaitanya, as a result of which we pursue meaningless things. We hold on to meaningless objectives in life. This is what has been given to by Lord Chaitanya. He has given us the ability to be able to shed conditioning of millions of lifetimes, and while being in this realm, feel the presence of Krishna, interact with Him. It's possible in one lifetime if one is serious and focused. Vyavasatmika buddhi. Focused mind. Resolute determination. One is able to do that. One is able to achieve it by the mercy of the Parampara, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. One can achieve it. That's the mercy which has been given to us. When we chant Krishna's name, is Krishna different from Krishna's name? Is He or is He not? He is not. He is absolute. Krishna, His paraphernalia, His attributes, His associates, His dham, non-different. All spiritual, of the same quality. When we chant Krishna's name, and there is no barrier of matter, when the mind, intelligence and the senses are completely aligned and pose no resistance, they cooperate. When Krishna's name is being called out, we are chanting the pure name. We hear the word and the definition, Shuddhanam. What is Shuddhanam? Shuddhanam is being chanted by a pure soul. No barriers. Krishna. And they can see His beautiful face. No barriers. He appears. He appears even otherwise. But we don't have the ability to connect with Him. But a pure soul, when he chants, he is able to connect. That's pure chanting. Pure chanting is when the entire existence is aligned with the interest of the soul, which is to serve Krishna. Shuddhanam. So that's the begging that we do with our acharyas every day in the morning, begging them to allow us to chant the pure names. When all other identities that are meaningless are shed by us, we throw them away like unwanted burden. We shed them, we align ourselves, bring Krishna to the center and call out His names. And He comes to our life. He comes into our life in such a powerful manner. He reaches out. His associates reach out. So aren't we interested to get there? Is there any other pursuit in life which could take on a greater importance than this? There cannot be. There cannot be. There cannot be any other pursuit. There cannot be any other pursuit. How could there be any other pursuit other than wanting to serve Krishna? Because that's the nature of the soul. Shuddha Atma. We use the word Shuddha Atma. Right? Shuddha Nam. This is what the meaning is. The meaning is that that Atma has complete control now. And the existence of the Atma is not obstructed by the physical body. This is the reason why when the spiritual master leaves his body, the body is not cremated. Because that body is not impure, it is pure. Why? Because it has attained its purity. Right? we inter them in samadhi. It does not require to be destroyed. So we have this concept very clear. See, if anyone goes to the hospital, if anyone goes to a crematorium, funeral parlor in America, wherever in the West, we go anywhere where there's a dead body, Vedic rites demand that you come home, remove those clothes, wash yourself, have a bath, so on and so forth. Because there's great impurity and samskaras that are associated with those places which can impede us. Vedic rites command that someone passes away in the house, members of the family should not go to the temple for X number of days. There's a reason for that. Multifold reason. One is that we don't want to bring our grief before the Lord. That's a state of lamentation. It's offensive. Number two, we do not want that there is a scope that until the samskaras are over, we would not be in a position to go, there will be some impurities from that situation. On the other hand, when a sannyasi, when a guru tattva, when a person who is elevated passes away, we bring their body into the temple before the Lord. Have you seen? You can see that. They bring the body into the temple because that person's body is not impure. It's pure. Have you seen it? You can see if you run the video for Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi ceremony, you can run the video for different Maharajas' Samadhi ceremony. Many of them, elevated souls, they are allowed to enter the temple. Because they have attained that. Secondly, since a spiritual master is Sakshad Hari Dharitvena, right? Sakshad Dharitvena. He is the personification of the Lord in the physical form. So in such a state, it is important that he is being brought in for last honors into the community, which is the temple. So those distinctions are set aside. We don't make those distinctions for such personality. Very important to realize the difference. So now we are understanding that there is the possibility that we could become pure. There is the possibility that we don't have to wait until death. There's a possibility that we could become pure in this lifetime, in this existence, and behold the beautiful face of the divine couple. This is the goal, or the greatest samambonam, the greatest goal of Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is becoming as conscious as Krishna. Attaining qualitatively the purity of the Lord, shedding the conditioning so that we became qualitatively one with Him, so we understand that our purpose is to serve His senses. That is Krishna consciousness. Now, let's move on to verse number 57. So I guess 57 is also more or less the same lines as 56. So we speak that such a person who is completely Krishna conscious, whose body, intelligence, mind, and the soul are all aligned, they are leading a wholesome existence. For such a person, distress and happiness are equal states in this world. Do you agree? Why? How could he or she possibly say distress and happiness are of equal nature? Undisturbed. What? Exactly. Since both distress and happiness in the material world and associated with matter are a matter of experience through the material body and the mind, for a person who is completely devoid of any state of connection through the body and the mind, through the world, such a person will not experience distress or happiness. But rather, they will experience it, they will not be moved by it. There could be some amount of lamentation, there could be some amount of grief as needed, because we are not inert substances. We are human beings. We are conscious if circumstances occur which require exhibition of happiness. Nothing wrong. If circumstances occur where there is a need for exhibition of lamentation, nothing wrong. But such a person will not be overwhelmed. Such a person will not be overwhelmed by such events. So when the Pandavas lost their children, when Arjun lost Abhimanyu, Arjun lamented. But it did not prevent him from continuing his duty. That is Krishna consciousness. So it is not that you stop lamentation, you are inert, and then you repress all your feelings or whatsoever. There is expression of feeling, but with a complete understanding of what the situation is. There is great compassion for those who are suffering. So it is not that we completely say that, oh, someone is suffering, someone is very sick, someone is in the deathbed, and we say, you are not this body, why bother? So that's not the statement of a Shuddha Atma. There's immense compassion for the suffering of others. But greatest suffering is separation from Krishna. There is great understanding of that particular suffering. So the person who is completely Krishna conscious is aware of the fact that the suffering which is being experienced by others is intense, and the heart flows out for them. So what is verse 57? Verse 57, Yah sarvatra nabhineshas tat tat prapya subha ashubham nabhinandati nadveshti tasya prajna pratishtita. In the material world, one who is unaffected by whatever good or evil he may obtain, neither praising it, nor despising it, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. Now again, a beautiful verse, and I would like to have some answers from you. How is it possible that someone who is transcendently situated would neither praise nor despise good or evil? He would neither praise it nor despise it. Always fixed in perfect knowledge. What does this mean? Why would someone neither praise nor despise whatever good or evil he may obtain? What is that particular state and why? What would allow you to neither praise nor despise anything? Yes, Mataji. Surrender. Go ahead and tell me more. What are you trying to say? Why surrender? Okay, very nice. So, we have an answer here which is somewhat very much closely in line. Whatever be the good or evil a transcendently situated person may obtain, he understands that this is your gift, Krishna, and the moment Krishna comes involved and becomes involved in it and it becomes Krishna's gift, right? He is not affected. So he remains in perfect knowledge that I am a servant of Krishna. And this is His perfect arrangement for me to come closer and closer and closer to Him. So anything that is being given, be it good or be it evil, is an opportunity for me to be grateful and come closer to Him. This is Krishna. He sees Krishna in everything. Completely surrendered. Oh Krishna, this is wonderful. You have given me this, wonderful. Oh, you have taken away something from me. That's fine. That's wonderful too, because I'm able to come closer to you. So when everything is being connected to the Supreme Lord, then such a person is perfectly situated in knowledge. Do we realize? Yada sammarate chayam Kurmo nignaniva sarvasah Indriyani indriyarthebhyas tasya prajna pratishtita. One who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects, as the tortoise draws its limbs within the shell, is firmly fixed in perfect consciousness. So, if something, a tortoise fundamentally is able to withdraw its senses. So it does not discard its senses, it withdraws its senses and then uses its senses whenever it can, whenever it's proper to be used. If it has to move, it moves. But then if the limbs can get hurt because it approaches, it sees some danger approaching, it immediately withdraws the senses. So similarly, someone who is in perfect knowledge does not allow the mind to engage in sankalpa vikalpa, which is the process of accepting and rejecting. The mind is constantly engaging in that. Oh, this is good. Let me enjoy it. Once it comes close and it is not so wonderful, okay, let me reject it. Oh, this is wonderful. Let me accept it. Let me reject it. This is the nature of the mind. Such a person does not allow the mind to interfere. He understands perfectly well that my duty is to be aligned with the interest of the soul. I am a spirit soul. I am in perfect knowledge. I am Krishna's servant. If my senses have to be used in the Lord's service, yes. If not, the senses are withdrawn, like a tortoise. If Krishna is connected to something, yes. Otherwise, no. I am not interested. I am not interested in pursuing objectives of the senses. I said very clearly in the beginning of the class, the wholesome state of samadhi is wholesome. The body, mind, intelligence, everything is completely in alignment with the interest and the pursuit of the soul. So if the soul is fully in charge, why would the body make any kind of demand? Why would the body make any kind of demand? The body is aligned with the soul. So again, go back to this example. Such a person would 100% be aligned with the interest of the soul. The body will not have any independent existence. So, what is the soul's interest? To serve Krishna's senses. So, if there are opportunities to serve Krishna's senses, I will use my senses to serve his senses. I will not use my senses for sense gratification, solely for the pursuit of sense gratification. At that time, those senses are withdrawn. They are not in touch with the world. They exist, but they are not in touch with the world. When Krishna comes to the forefront, when I am supposed to serve Krishna, yes, we will engage. This is the action of a tortoise, and someone who is firmly fixed in knowledge does not have to put in any effort. It will happen automatically. Connected to Krishna, accept. Not connected to Krishna, reject. In other words, everything is connected to Krishna, but is it going to be something which I can please Krishna with? Yes. If not, no. Rather, if this is for my pleasure, reject. If it is for Krishna's pleasure, accept. Even difficulties are accepted. Difficulties, challenges, and all kinds of obstacles are accepted with a smiling face if it is something which is going to give pleasure to Krishna's senses. For my own pleasure, no. No such thing. We would not be getting into such ventures. Right? Sometimes when I go through these amusement parks, you have Disney World and you have this different kinds of world. When you go to those Disney World and all those places, you have those Ferris wheel and you have all kinds of crazy rides. You get into one of those rides, you get a heart attack. Crazy. Absolutely. The amount of speed they go into, they just shatter yourself and then they frighten you in so many different ways. It's a thrill. Now, that is risk-taking for sense pleasure. Imagine going all the way up to such great heights, depending on the fact that someone has fixed those machines properly. They are all in working order. You take a chance just for sense pleasure. That kind of sense pleasure, no risk-taking. But if I have to serve Krishna, take all kinds of risk. Wonderful. So that's exactly how a devotee thinks, someone who is in samadhi. I'm just giving you an example. No question of risk-taking for the pleasure of the senses. There's no need. There's no need to put ourselves through such experiences for pleasure of the senses. But for Krishna's senses, if there has to be some pleasure, if Lord Chaitanya's movement requires some risk-taking to be done, so be it. Srila Prabhupada at the age of 70, he gets into a ship, travels all alone for 2 months, experiences heart attacks, leaves the hometown of Vrindavan, comes here with $7, risk-taking, but 100% for the pleasure of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Perfectly in order. The same Srila Prabhupada would have rejected coming here for pleasure of his senses because there's absolutely no meaning. Why take a risk and leave Vrindavan and come to America for my pleasure? What pleasure could there be? Zero. So that's the difference. You understand now in terms of withdrawal of senses of someone who is situated in samadhi? When it is for Krishna's senses, all kinds of risk. No problem. All kinds of inconveniences. Everything is fine. My senses, no. We would not take chances. Why bother? Why complicate things? We want to keep life simple. So now, we also have an interesting, that's verse number 59. Let's go to verse number 59. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinah rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. Though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. Now, do you see an interesting shift in the verse? For 2 to 3 verses, Krishna was talking about the transcendental state. He was talking about what is the meaning of samadhi. He was talking about what are the symptoms of one who is transcendently situated. Now there's a sudden shift in the verses where he is talking about how one can attain such a state. Can you see the shift now that has occurred? He is not talking about transcendental situations. He is talking about how such a situation can be attained. So it's a natural order. So first Arjuna posed a problem. He said, this is status quo. I have a mind, I have intelligence, I have my body, and I have my soul. And none of them are aligned, Krishna. They are compartmentalized. They are fragmented. I am broken. I am miserable. What is the state of samadhi? How could there be a situation of samadhi which is wholesome existence? Then Krishna talks about samadhi. He talks about transcendental existence. He speaks more, saying these are the symptoms of one who is transcendently situated. He says symptoms of one who is transcendently situated when there is evil, when there is good, when there is proper things and when there is improper things. Everything, the person, how does he act and how does he react to those aspects? And then he also starts talking about the process of attaining samadhi. So there's a shift now in the verses. So though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. So the taste remains. Srila Prabhupada used to give a wonderful example for this verse. And the example was that when you live in the material world, it's like your fan is going full speed. You know ceiling fan in India? We don't use ceiling fans here much. Ceiling fans going in full speed. That's normal material existence. And then we come into Krishna consciousness and we come in touch with a Sadguru, a potent spiritual master. Then the process of transformation starts occurring because the Ichcha Shakti, the desire of the Sadguru, desire of the spiritual master, the faith of the spiritual master is being passed on to those who hear him. Vani, right? Who come in touch with him. The transformation starts occurring. Why does it occur? Why does a transformation occur when we come in touch with the spiritual master? How do we understand purity? We understand purity because someone who is pure has experienced Krishna. He is not in a theoretical state anymore. We could be in a theoretical state where we are not very clear of what Krishna is all about, and in such a state, faith is required. For someone who has attained purity, he does not require faith. He has seen Krishna. He has interacted with Krishna. And that conviction is deep in the heart. When such a person speaks about Krishna, that conviction, that faith is being passed on to us. That faith which is being passed on to us enters into our heart, Shraddha. Ado Shraddha, the meaning of Ado Shraddha, how does it start? That Ado Shraddha is being passed on because we have come in touch with a pure soul, and that particular pure soul's faith is being passed on into our heart. And that particular pure faith starts destroying the anarthas. Ado Shraddha. That is the meaning of Ado Shraddha, the first step, faith. How does it occur? Because there is some Agyata Sukriti. We have come in touch with purity. So when we have this transformation occurring in Krishna consciousness, where we first come, we are like a fan which is running full speed. And then, when we come in touch with Krishna consciousness, we come in the presence of pure devotees, when we engage in service, the fan comes to a stop. It is like the electricity being unplugged. We turn the switch off because we understand, oh, this fan needs to be turned off because it's not the wonderful thing. It has to be turned off. So we turn the fan off. Once we turn the fan off, does it stop immediately? No. It continues revolving for some time because it has momentum. It keeps going for some time till it comes to a complete halt. So the power source has been cut off, but yet the fan makes its movements. Similarly, when we come in from a material situation into Krishna consciousness, and we come in touch with some purity, our power source of material sense enjoyment is cut off. Because transformative knowledge is being passed on to us, that particular link with the material world is cut off. But even though the material world link is cut off, we are still in the previous consciousness, we are still in the previous modes, so there is still some propensity for sense enjoyment. So that's what this verse means, that even though an embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. The taste remains, like a fan which is not stopping, even though the power has been cut off. There is still some vasana for things that we used to do before. That was enjoyable. I have come into Krishna consciousness. I have heard, I have seen, I have tasted. I find what I did was abominable. But yet, when I keep coming close to the same old circle, probably the same old place, same old association, those tastes that linger have a sense of, oh, I still have some attraction. I still have some attraction. I still have some attraction. So how does that attraction go away? So Krishna is giving the process in this verse. He's saying that attraction goes away when the senses are engaged in something higher. So some taste, some vasana remains. Right? What is the biggest obstacle for one to have a wholesome existence? The body has its own pursuit of sense enjoyment. So until and unless the body and the senses are purified, the pursuit of sense enjoyment continues. So how does this stop? We stop it, but even though we stop it, the body still has certain propensities because we're used to it. So how do we purify? How do we purify anything? Bring it in connection with Krishna. Connect it to Krishna. If the senses are connected to Krishna, they are engaged in a higher taste, automatically the lower taste goes away. Param drishtva nivartate. There is no repression in Krishna consciousness. We first cut it off, and that cutting off process is natural. You come in touch with someone with conviction, That conviction of the person comes from deep within because that person has seen the truth. Once such a person speaks, we come in touch with such a person, our conviction develops. So we stop material engagement, but the taste still remains. That taste will go away when we bring our senses in touch with Krishna's senses. How? By serving Krishna's senses. We engage our senses in His service, and by doing so, our senses become purified. Param drishtva nivartate. There is no repression. This is an example. Someone for many, many years has only been eating sukha roti, right? Nothing wrong with sukha roti. I like sukha roti, in fact. Nothing wrong. It's wonderful. He has just been having sukha roti, sukha chapati, maybe a little dal. I don't know. Maybe some achar. I don't know what is a poor man's fare, but some dal, some roti, some achar. In America, it's probably a luxury, even those items. Right? So even those are not easily obtainable. But for many, many years, a person has been having a diet which is very minimized. But suddenly, a person now comes in touch with the opportunity to eat nicely. 3 times a day, he is being fed with wonderful, opulent, nice meals. Will he have a problem giving up sukha roti and dal and achar? He will not. Because now he has an opportunity which is much better. He would say, big deal. Let me stop eating my sukha roti. Why should I be attached to sukha roti? He would give up this chapati or whatever it is, and he would say, this is an opulent, meal. So similarly, when we come in touch with Krishna consciousness, our senses experience something higher. We are experiencing Krishna by serving Him. And by doing so, our senses get purified. They experience a higher taste. Param drishtva nivartate. By experiencing a higher taste, we give up lower tendencies. That's called conditioning. Have you ever seen that you bring a dog to the middle of the house and you give it a wonderful meal, it would still have a tendency to go and search the rubbish dump for tidbits. Do you see that? It's called conditioning. We are used to nonsense to such an extent that we don't want to give up the nonsense. Oh, that's wonderful. King Indra did not want to give up being a pig. What to say of us? And he was offered the heavenly kingdoms. Brahmaji said, please come back. You are Indra. Please come back. The heavenly kingdom, Swarga, is waiting for us. And Indra is saying, no. I have a nice, wonderful family. I have many wives. I have many children. I have no problem with food. Why should I come back? I'm happy. And he was a pig. He was cursed to become a pig. So that's called conditioning. So conditioning is such that material conditioning can overcome. Matter is not easy to overcome. It's an opportunity. That is the reason why this is called the process of anartha nivritti, where there is initial cutoff, there's the struggle, that struggle goes on for some time, it attains, then slowly, steadily we kick out these unwanted anarthas and we become alright. Any activity which is not connected.
So it cannot be offered at that point, because why would it just suppress the mind? What should be under that thinking?
Yes, it is always better. See, it is not the question of us being able to repress, but the whole point of sadhana bhakti is there has to be some force. We are being forced, or rather we force ourselves to do what is good for us. And I'll tell you something. This should not be a challenge. In this world, have you ever seen people who are athletes, who pursue some kind of musical goal, right? Their voice has to be cultivated. They cannot eat. They can't, do certain things. They are that's a sadhana in itself. You have athletes. They will not eat, right? and even worse, models, like people who are engaging in modeling, they end up not eating to such an extent that it becomes a disease. They develop anorexia nervosa. It's a disease which has to be treated by the psychiatrist because now they have developed this particular idea that eating is not good. Eating is not good. Eating is not good, and the whole process of eating shuts down to such an extent that they become emaciated. So people in this world, for lesser, useless, mundane goals, have learned to curtail their senses. Why would it be a challenge to curtail senses for the pleasure of Krishna? Can you understand this? So we are used to it. We are used to it. If there's an athlete, if there is someone, for example, Muhammad Ali, the great boxer Muhammad Ali, everyone knows, he was basically seeking some spiritual counsel from my spiritual master when he was at his peak. So there were many a time when my spiritual master used to visit him, and he used to stay in his house at some point, or rather give association to Muhammad Ali. And many a time he used to observe something wonderful about this guy. He used to completely abstain and maintain celibacy 2 to 3 months before any major boxing match. And that was to retain sharpness in the ring. Because it is an important principle that if you maintain celibacy, sharpness increases. So he used to maintain celibacy for 2-3 months so that he could be in peak performance in the ring. So you can imagine, someone is able to maintain celibacy, and this is a person who is not following regulative principles strictly. He is able to maintain celibacy, he is able to pull in, whatever has to be, in the sense that, completely curtail himself from all kinds of activities. He used to completely curtail himself from the social circles and focus if any big match used to come up. So now this is sadhana, is it not? And for what kind of a goal? Just for winning a match? Now how many people know about Muhammad Ali? I think our children would not know about Muhammad Ali. We knew, but no one else knows. Our children may not know about Muhammad Ali. He has become history, period. So for what purpose was all this curtailment and sadhana being done by these boxers? It was being done for a very mundane goal, but what it shows us is for even such mundane goals by people, it is possible. It is possible to engage in this kind of sadhana. So what to say of us who have the greatest goal which has been given to us? Our goal is to please Krishna and his senses. Right? So is it possible? Absolutely possible. Param drishtva nivartate. We have to control ourselves to the extent to which it is required. But unnecessary repression will not accomplish anything. So the process of Krishna consciousness is natural. We enter into Krishna consciousness, we become slightly transformed, our tastes still linger, we continue in Krishna consciousness, and serve Krishna with our senses, and slowly and steadily we purify our senses, we purify our existence. There is no force. How does the purification occur? It is not by repression, it is because we develop a higher taste. Param drishtva nivartate. You develop something higher, you give up something lower. Not a big thing. It's not a challenge. So there has to be some control. To answer your question, it cannot be that we say, I'm going to completely let go. Because how is that possible? How is that possible to say that I'm going to continue all my old habits and something wonderful has to come out of that particular situation? Nothing wonderful will come out of our old habits. Old habits will yield old results. So we break our old habits, we take on fresh new habits, and we move on. And that's how we make advancement. Old habits yield old results. Okay, I'm going to stop here. I think I've crossed my time. What time is it? 10 minutes? Yeah, I've really crossed my boundaries. So maybe if there's only one question, I can take a question and then we can stop. Srila Prabhupada ki. Yeah. Yes. In every palace. Yes. Because there's greater pleasure in separation than there is in Krishna being there. So Krishna wanted to give them the sense of separation so that they would understand and experience that pleasure. Because what happens when we are separated from someone? When we are separated from someone, we think about them with greater intensity than when they are in our own presence. Is it not? So that pleasure of being able to think about Krishna with great intensity was experienced by his dearest devotees in Vrindavan. So he gave them that pleasure so that they could experience it. Yes, but you have to realize one thing though. Here there is duality. In this world, there is something called grief, there is something called happiness. The quality of both are completely different. Right? In the spiritual realm, both grief and happiness are intensely blissful because Krishna is involved. The intensity of bliss in grief of separation from Krishna is even greater than the intensity of bliss in Krishna's presence. Because the intensity of bliss when Krishna is away is such that Krishna is in the heart. He is very deep in the heart. When Krishna is present, he is present in the front of the person. So there's separation in reality. Anyway, we don't want to go there. These are esoteric topics. But just to explain to you that in the spiritual realm, pleasure and pain are the same. Both are intensely blissful because they are connected to Krishna. So pain in Krishna consciousness is pleasure. Right? Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Thank you. I'm glad to be of some service. Hare Krishna. Now you get paid. When people are singing, you should not play. वो ताल उनका बिगड़ जाता है. Then it becomes difficult for them to concentrate. क्योंकि उनका रहता है ना वो they follow the instruments. It becomes difficult.